All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Never Less Than Ill, the new hip hop podcast for myself, Justin Ivy, and my man, Lynn Burton, the brains behind Bros Who Think. Lynn, man, it's great to be with you. It's great to be starting this show with you.
Yeah, man, super excited. Really excited about episode 1. Really excited about what we got coming down the pipeline, and then just really excited to hear some of these stories from some of these people who either were a part of some of these hip hop legends or hip hop acts, or hearing from some of the people who wrote about some of these people, or just hearing about people who were a part of the journey, just like all the different facets from the conversations we're going to bring.
Yes, exactly. This is really exciting. This is, for anybody that checked out our teaser, this is something I've wanted to do, for a long time. And really, to me, Lynn and the Bros Who Think network was just kind of the perfect place to do it. And so it's really exciting to get this opportunity to share with y'all some of this hip hop knowledge, some of these stories, some of these just kind of, some of these underappreciated acts that deserve their just due and maybe aren't, going to be the ones you're getting in every day on social media and having your debate with all your friends. Like, here's somebody that maybe you could do a little digging for, and and
get to know more about.
Yeah.
And I think it's only appropriate that episode 1 is about Lil Brother.
Absolutely. That's Lil Brother, one of my favorite groups. Lil Brother's just special to, I think to a lot of not just hip hop fans, but for me in particular as a Southern hip hop fan, Lil Brother was important because you always, for a long time, you think back to Andre 3000 and the South's Got Something to Say, and just that kind of that redheaded stepchild of hip hop at times.
Never getting the just due.
Yes. And so you always were like looking for those certain acts, like, and I'm not trying to disrespect any other acts, but you wanted to have those guys that you championed, like they can hang with you East Coast elitists or you West Coast heads, like whatever they were, and you wanted those guys. Lil Brother were one of those guys. They were the guys that we were able to say, okay, you can't just dismiss us as, dance music or whatever you're saying. How about Lil Brother? It's you run down your Rolodex of people, and you'd have Lil Brother, and obviously Fonte, man, one of the best MCs to ever do it, maybe.
And then you get Ninth Wonder production. It's just like, oh man.
Of course, man. And so, yeah, when I was thinking about, man, who do we start this off with? Lil Brother just stood out as a great way to start this off, and I couldn't think of a better person to get in to discuss Lil Brother than Andreas Hale. And for those that don't know, man, one of the veteran OGs in this hip hop journalism game. This is the guy that inspired me. This is the guy that took hip hop site Hip Hop DX briefly at BET, had a little interesting run there, but man, these days he's working all over the place, sport and news. He's gone into combat sports coverage, wrestling, everything. This guy's just one of the best, and one of the best for us too, because man, he was there from the beginning. He saw each and every step of the way on Lil Brother. He saw him back when Speed just took off. He got to know all these guys, and he's got some great stories. And I like I said, I could not think of anybody better to talk about Lil Brother than Andreas.
Yeah, I'm super excited. You got to sit down, chop it up with him. I'm excited to hear the conversation and hear everything he's about to let people know in on Lil Brother, and which is especially in what you got to say as well.
Well, man, with no further ado, we're gonna take you right into that conversation. So let's check it out. Never Less Than Ill, and here we are talking Lil Brother with Andreas Hale. Yeah, so man, with Little Brother being the topic, I couldn't think of really anybody better to talk to than you. Man, I think probably you were the first person I ever saw writing about him, honestly. When I was just a fan. what was your first introduction to Little Brother, and what stood out about him for you?
Oh man, it's a loaded one. So Little Brother is the reason I got into music journalism. Like that is the catalyst. So back in, I want to say '03, OK Player message boards. I used to be heavy on the message boards, but I was a lurker, man. I didn't really post much. But the Lawn always had dope stuff on there. So I came across a post by FWMJ. Everybody knows it's Frank, and he had posted Speed, like a Z share or some, not even a Z share. I don't. It might have been a Real Player audio file, and I clicked it, and it hit me immediately because I was like, you think it's 2003, 50 Cent's ruling the world, Ja Rule. You got a bunch of bullshit on the radio. I've been yearning for that old Tribe Called Quest sound. And when I heard it, Ninth Wonder's production, Fontaine Pooh's rhymes, I was just, I was like, this is what I've been looking for. Like, this is what I needed. And then what was frustrating was like, it was so dope, but I was like, nobody knows about this, right? Like, this is like I played it for who's now my wife, and then she was like, "Oh, what is this? This is really dope," and she liked it. And it's really hard, especially for underground hip hop, to connect with women and men. And that was the first time I really found a group that connected with women and men, and it was dope. So it was like from that point, I had committed to starting a career in hip hop journalism, being a frequent shopper at hip hop site, and hating what the source was at the time. Like La Bella Mafia got 5 mics, and like Benzino was bigging himself up with the Made Men. And I was like, man, there's a whole nother perspective of hip hop that I don't think is really being covered. And I just kind of got in that space. And before I even wrote for Hip Hop Site, I wrote for this magazine called Third Eye in Las Vegas. And the girl named Katrina, I'll never forget her name, because she was like, "Can you write a review for me?" And I was like, "Okay." She was like, "Can you review like 50 Cent?" I was like, "No." "Can you review Ja Rule?" I was like, "No." "Who do you want to review?" I was like, "Little Brother." She's like, "Who the fuck is Little Brother?" And I remember contacting ABB, the label, and asking for a press kit. And they was like, "All right." And they sent me the press kit. And I wrote the review, and she was like, "This is really good. I just don't know who the fuck these guys are." And I ended up at Hip Hop Site, and that was like my sample review. That was the first review I submitted to them. They asked me to write a review. Long story short, I was frequent the store. I was in the store one day as a customer. Pizzo, who was one of the owners and the manager, came downstairs and was like talking to the workers, like, "I need somebody to write a review." And everybody was like looking around, like, and I was like, "I could do it." And he was like, "Who the fuck are you?" And I was like, "Yo, my name's Andreas. I come to the store all the time. Let me write this review and show you what I got." Right. And he was like, you graduate from college?" I was like, "Nope. I just love hip hop." And wrote the review. And then from that point, it just kind of took off. And from that point, also, it was just like I covered everything Justice League, from Little Brother to Median, Edgar Allan Flow, when Ninth Disguise Ooze album. It was just that sound was a good, wholesome 90s era hip hop that was not full of all the excessive bullshit.
Mm, that's amazing. So, what, what do you think was kind of like that gestation period with the listening? Like, I think the first album I truly experienced, like the release of, was the Minstrel Show. Obviously it had the Atlantic push and everything like that, but the listening buzz kept getting bigger. Like, what do you think it was about the listening that was allowed it to spread like that?
Man, it was undeniable, right? Like it was a sound that people wanted. Obviously, Kanye was just really coming to the scene at the time. And Ninth was creating these beats on Fruity Loops. Obviously, it turned everybody onto Fruity Loops. Um, and it was two MCs, and especially Tay at the time, who were really dope. And it wasn't like what was on the radio. It just really felt like this 90s era that you got to remember in early 2000, like today we have, it's like a library card, like Apple Music's library card. You just listen to whatever the fuck you want. Back then, you had to invest in what you wanted to listen to. And if you bought a wax CD, you were just kind of stuck with it. But if you found something dope, it was like your discovery. And with that, you wanted to share it with other people. You was like, "Yo, you should listen to this." Back when burning CDs happened, and kids don't even know about burning CDs anymore. But it's like somebody got a hold of the listening and was like, "Yo, this is incredible." Like, no major labels are ever going to sign them because that's not what major labels were looking for at the time. But they were really just undeniably dope. So when the listening dropped, obviously I said I heard Speed, but I heard that album and I got through the press kit. And I was like, like the yo-yo, the listening, like the topics that they rhymed about, it felt right. It felt like we needed it. And then you was like, they're from North Carolina? Like, who the fuck is from North Carolina aside from like Petey Pablo at the time? It was just something that we needed in hip hop, especially for the backpackers or the cats that are on the internet. Like, this is before the blogs took off. So these were, to me, like the first, aside from Eminem, the first group that the internet truly embraced. And from that point, like, the listening was an album that you could play for people. And I never really ever heard somebody who was like, yo, this is whack. I heard people just go like, who is this? You know, whether it was Tay and Pooh's rhymes or Ninth's beats, it was always, who the fuck is this? And I want to know more about that. And, you know, obviously that's how Young Girl got a hold of it. And, you know, Ninth ended up producing for the Black Album, but it was that stickiness factor that the listener had. The shit was just undeniable.
Do you think, I think about Little Brothers, the way they kind of grew, obviously they weren't a mainstream act, but I mean, they really did kind of blow up in that mid 2000s. Do you think that happens if Ninth doesn't get that Jay-Z production credit?
Yes, because it made people want to know more about Ninth, right? But even if you listen to Threat, it still doesn't sound like anything off of the listing, right? Ninth was given, if people have heard the story, Ninth went to the studio, Jay dropped his Woman's Worth, asked Ninth to cook up a beat, came back, that's how we had Threat. That wasn't really what the listening sounded like. It helped, but I think they had already had like a pretty significant cult following by that time. You know, speaking for the perspective of that hip hop site, we couldn't keep their shit on the shelves. Between anything Justice League or Doom, sold out of it all the time. And it was just a phenomenon because there was no real cosign. Like Questlove co-signed them, but we just couldn't keep the shit on the shelf. Whether it was the first foreign exchange album, whether it was Median, whether it was, like I said, Sky Zoo, that shit just flew off the shelf. It's what people wanted. So if that didn't happen, I think the bigger question is, would Ninth become the producer that he is today, producer for like Destiny's Child at the time, ended up on the De La Soul album? Would he have reached as far as he reached into the mainstream if it wasn't for Jay? But I think Little Brother as a collective would have been just fine.
I think one of the kind of unique things with Little Brother too was they kind of had a Wu-Tang moment in my mind where Median was kind of in play for Speed, and wasn't around for whatever reason, so Big Pooh ends up in that spot. How different do you think the group is and the dynamic is if this becomes the duo of Fonte and Median and with Ninth producing?
That's a good question, man. That's some butterfly effect shit. I honestly don't know. Pooh felt like the perfect balance, and I think that one of the more fascinating things has been Pooh's growth over the years as an MC. He just kind of came in, and everybody knows the story. He showed up, and he was just, all right, cool, I'm gonna rap. He didn't really consider much about it. Like Fonte was like a student of the game, and everybody knew that. So when Tay's on the mic, it was like, oh shit, Pooh like progressively got better, and I think that growth has helped balance Little Brother out. As dope as Median was, who knows? It could have been a situation like an Elzai situation where, if anybody knows the Elzai situation, Elzai was known notoriously for like just missing studio sessions and not getting things done. Like I've heard through people for so many years, like he's gotten much better now. But back then, as great as he was, you couldn't catch him. You couldn't trap him. Pooh was just there. And I think if Median ends up there, I don't know if the listening ends up being the listening. I don't think a lot of those songs end up being the way that they are, because those two, knowing them as long as I've known them over the years, they really bounced off of each other really well. And I'm not saying Median couldn't have done that, but I think it would just been a totally different group. I have no idea what that shit would have sounded like.
That's something they've touched on in their songs too, is just kind of that dynamic of Pooh being the young guy that came in, and I think that's something that always worked about them, was just that kind of interplay between those two. And it's why I think you look at what they did post Ninth, it's why it's kind of been able to keep working, is because it wasn't just, you know, two random guys rapping on Ninth Wonder beats. It was there was a real chemistry, and it's kind of why it was sad, you know, when they did break up for that time period before the reunion.
Yeah, it's funny because, you know, for those that don't know, I got close to the guys, right? Like I promoted their first show in Vegas. I loved them so much. I got tracked down Big Doe, and I was like, I need to have him perform in Vegas. It's like, you ever done a concert before? I was like, no, but I just want to have him in Vegas. And you know, I met them. Ninth wasn't with them at the time. It was just Dope, who and Flash was on the wheels, and it was and I became just really tight with the guys. And you know, me and Ninth got tight later. Um, but watching how they've interacted and their personalities, like if anybody knows Pooh, he's a big sports guy. He loves, you know, Fonte is a big music guy. He give a shit about sports. Like he's real deep in music conversation in films. And it's like they had that perfect balance, right? Like when we talk about Tribe, like we talk about Fife and Tip, and as dope as they are, they're very different MCs. You know, even Andre and Big Boy, very different MCs. If you have two MCs of the same, why you might as well just have one MC rapping, right? Like you don't really need to. And I think it was just as fascinating to watch Fonte come into his own as like a solo artist and singing Foreign Exchange and really branching out. But it was just as fascinating to see Big Pooh grow and mature as an MC and get a little bit more personal. And you know, by the time we got to the minstrel show, people were like, "Oh shit!" You know, my wife was always a fan of Big Pooh. She was like, "He's so cute and cuddly, and the way he rhymes, it had a lot of confidence, but it felt like it made you feel very warm inside." That it's just rare to find that, man. And you never know what you got until you put it out there. You'll talk to artists all the time, and I'm sure you've done this. You had an interview and you ask them, like, did you know that song was going to be that big? And they was like, no, I hated it when I did it, right? Like there's always MCs that do that. It's like, but with Tay and Pooh, they just felt good about whatever they did. And I think we felt that through the music over the years.
Now the minstrel show was obviously the biggest release after that. After the listening comes, what what was it like around that time period for you covering them, and you know, what did you kind of learn about what they were going through at that time?
Oh man, that was the Atlantic situation, bro. So the listening drops. I know I brought them to Vegas. They obviously did a bunch of shows and shit, and we got close, and they started recording the album with Atlantic. And I remember we got the vinyl of Loving It, right? And I was like, yo, this is dope. And there was a lot of people that were like, this doesn't sound like the listening. There were like people that were pissed off. This doesn't sound like the listening. I don't know what this is. And then the sampler came out. I don't know if people remember, they used to drop samplers all the time where you get like 30 seconds of each song. And people, I think Hiding Place was on there, and it like cuts off right before Elzai's verse. And people were like, oh shit. There was this groundswell because it felt like your hometown hero got drafted in the first round, right? But he ended up on a team with a bunch of all-stars. You couldn't figure out where he was going to fit the offense. That was like Little Brother signed to Atlantic. Because at that time, it wasn't just Little Brother. I believe, I remember at the time, Apathy also signed to Atlantic. And somebody else, I think Saigon at the time was there as well. But when Little Brother got there, it was like, oh, this is our hometown hero. He's like from our backwoods, and like, we know he can play, but are they going to give him playing time? Are they going to let him run his game? And I just remember Atlantic didn't know what to do with them, right? Like they were making an album, and Atlanta was like, "What are we gonna do with this? Like we got Ti. Like what are we gonna do with this shit?" But for us, it was exciting because we wanted to see what would happen if a major label got their hands on this, and would they try to make them go pop? Would they look for the radio single? And they didn't get it. Loving It wasn't a radio single. The video was like a cool video, and it was like you see it on like a Rap City at the time, but it wasn't anything that was going to make them sell 1 million records. And if the blogs existed at that time, I think they could have been much bigger. But unfortunately, without that, the labels just had to go off of radio and album sales. They ain't sell a ton of albums, but for the cult following, we loved it. Now you also got to remember the Source. Fahim Radcliffe was the editor in chief of the Source. and he got an advance of the album. I remember I got one, and a few other people got one. And then the story came out that Fahim gave the minstrel show a 5. Benzino came in, was like, I don't know who the fuck these guys are. Knock it down to like a 4, and Fahim quit.
Mm.
That became a whole story upon itself, right? That became the man versus the machine now. That became like in pro wrestling, like Daniel Bryan versus the Authority, right? Like we want him to win, but clearly the labels and the big wigs don't understand it and don't get it, and they don't want it to succeed. So it became like, it's hard to explain. It was like we pushed them. It was like the Yes movement. It was like we wanted them to win. So when the minstrel show dropped, and I remember I talked to Fahim and I was like, yo, this is incredible. They want to let you give it a 5. It kind of, Little Brother kind of changed the dynamic of how music was consumed and the people that you put in these editorial positions. Because after that, we started seeing like a little bit more underground coverage. We started seeing like acts, and it's also courtesy of Kanye West in a way, acts that we enjoy, the backpacker crowd enjoy, started bleeding into the mainstream. And I think the minstrel show was a big part of that. It was a concept album. It was undeniably dope. The lyrics were dope. The beats were hard. And for some reason, the source didn't want to give it a 5. And that energized a whole group of people to really want to get behind it. And I guess, and that's how people started hearing about Little Brother. Like people like, who the fuck is this group that I've never heard of that's getting 4.5 and in all these stories? And Fontaine, obviously we get to the Drake thing, but they were like the martyrs of hip hop.
That's a good point. I do wonder if that kind of that backlash almost to them that they felt from kind of those bigger powers almost helped them in a way. It was like if you were a champion of the underground, it was like you wanted to fight for these dudes.
Yeah, you wanted to fight tooth and nail. And me as a journalist, like I wanted to fight, right? Like, so I was like, yo, I'm telling everybody that I know, like, you need to listen to this album. This is like what you need to do. And tell me that it's whack. If you could tell me that this shit is whack, I'll hear you out. Nobody could tell me that it was whack. So I think the fans, I think the journalists that got behind him, I think it became like Fonte was your favorite rapper's favorite rapper for a lot of people. So when other people were talking about him as well, people wanted to listen. But again, it just, I think, dude, we're talking, what is this, 2005, 6, the minstrel show comes out? So I think Snap Movement was in, and Laffy Taffy and D4L and them Franchise Boys. That's what people thought the South was. These motherfuckers was from the South. It sounded nothing like this. So yeah, it's like you had to root for them. You felt sick if you couldn't root for them. Like we felt obligated to push them to the top as much as we could, and they're still here.
Like being from the South, that was like Little Brother and Cunning Linguist and stuff. Like when they were coming out at that time, like that was who I was just rooting for, because it was like you just had, this was, this was like the time of East Coast elitism and all kind of things like that still. And so you were like, no, we have more than this. So you can't, we're not just defined by these guys. We also have these guys. So that I always loved that stuff. One thing I did want to touch, like on terms of the minstrel shows, one thing I loved about Little Brother is always that kind of that comedy aspect that they have to them. And it's like you're kicking all these great bars, but then they'll do something like Cheating, which is just a straight up parody song. And it's kind of in that vein of like Make Me Hot from The Listening. But it's like, what was it about the kind of that dynamic of Little Brother that showed them like just doing something completely off the wall that what nobody else was doing like that?
It's like, if you know Fonte, if you've ever interviewed Fonte, and obviously now we have Twitter and we could see his personality on Twitter. When I met him, I was like, this is also one of the funniest cats I've ever met in my life. Like just laugh out loud funny. So at Hip Hop Site, we had like Atari 2600. We had the Percy Miracles EP. Like we knew what he could do. And we knew it was like genuinely funny because people would just straight up laugh at it. Like working at Hip Hop Site, for those who didn't know, it was also a physical store as well as online. So I'm always playing Little Brother. Funny thing, I was always playing Cunning Linguist instrumentals as well. No had those instrumental joints. I play them in the store all the time. And there were so many people that would come in and just buy it because they heard what was in the store. When I played the Percy Miracles EP, and I remember people just coming to the store like, what the fuck is this? Like, is this a comedy album? Like, what is this? But it wasn't corny comedy. It was like Redman is a seriously funny MC, right? There are very few MCs that are legitimately funny. Prince Paul was fantastic at skits with De La Soul.
Mm.
Fonte has the same kind of personality where if he was to do a stand-up set, we'd probably die laughing. But his calling's been music. So like Cheating, it was goofy, it was silly, but it was also catchy. And I think that was also the thing that we found out about Fonte. It was like, yeah, he sings as a joke, but he understands melodies, he understands harmonies, and he understands how to craft a good song. So the shit could be goofy as hell, but it just was catchy. And that gave the group another dynamic. Hip hop was, on one hand, was taking itself very seriously at the time. Like, yes, you did have East Coast elitism, and West Coast was struggling to get their way back in. So they were still angry about a lot of shit. And the South was about dancing, you know, a lot of the time in the mainstream. But then you had this group that could rap, be silly, just make dope music. It was the perfect package that we needed. And that's why they call themselves Little Brother. Obviously, a Tribe, De La, Jungle Brothers, they were like the descendants of that. And all of it bled through their music.
Oh, so, you know, post minstrel show, we're getting into the, you know, time where Ninth is the friction is kind of emerging, and we're, you know, end up to the Get Back where Ninth is, you know, only on one beat, and, you know, he's kind of designated now as not part of the group. What were your memories of that time, of kind of that friction? And, you know, do you think it needed to happen in a way? Like, would Little Brother still exist if, you know, if that doesn't happen?
Butterfly effect, man. That's a good question. So you got to remember, so we had Minstrel Show, we had the Separate but Equal mixtapes, we had, you know, Drama was co-signing them at the time, and you could start to see like Ninth didn't tour with them. You know, by the time after the listing drop, when I brought him out here, like I said, Flash was the DJ. Ninth didn't tour, but I would talk to like Murs, and Murs like, yo, I'm working on this joint with Ninth. Skyzoo with Ninth, Splash with Ninth. Like Ninth was in the lab cooking. That was all he ever really wanted to be, was a producer. And Fonte and Pooh wanted to be a group. Ninth had other plans, and it's hard to blame either side, because when success happens, you don't never really know how far you're going to go. I'm sure Ninth didn't say, hey, I'm making beats for Jay-Z and Destiny Child. Like, nobody really does that. But when it happens, now decisions have to be made. Do you go on the road with your group, or do you stay at home and work with all these artists and build your profile? And it happened so fast that they're young at the time, they're still in their 20s, they're still getting their taste of success, but they're not rich, you know, and you think sky's the limit, but at the same time, Ninth is looking at the bigger piece of the pie and saying, I could do this over here, or I could be compartmentalizing this group and always be stuck in this underground label. He made a decision. So it was kind of an interesting thing, because you would hear the stories, and obviously were rumors, but again, there's no Twitter, no social media. You don't know what's going on. Get Back, yes, you got one Ninth one to beat. And even the Separate but Equals, mostly Crisis handling a lot of that production. But meanwhile, you see Ninth, like everybody remembers the Merge 316 album, how incredible it was. And without divulging too much, the second time I brought Little Brother to Vegas, we had it was with Lupe Fiasco during NBA All-Star Weekend. And they killed it. Afterwards, me and Tay got on the phone. And he's going to send me the Get Back, but this is way before it was going to come out. But he was always telling me, I'll send it to you early. Just don't tell anybody you got it. Just tell me what you think. But we had this phone conversation where they were working on the album. And he's like, Ninth just send us beats. And I think he's told this story before, so I think I'm safe telling this. He was like, Ninth just sent us a beat CD. And I remember he was offended. He's like, you're a producer. Like, you're supposed to make beats for us, not send us a beat CD. And he was incredibly offended. And we were on the phone like 2 a.m. And Pooh at the time was just very like, you know, it is what it is. We'll just make it work, right? But Tay and Ninth's personalities were so strong. And I didn't talk to Ninth about this until later, but it offended Tay so much. He was just like, fuck it. I'm gonna start working with Illmind. I'm gonna start working with anybody else that we can work with, Knots, whoever. Because Tay always felt like we could just make dope music. Yes, we love Ninth, we like him to be here, but if he can't commit to us 100%, then we can just use other producers. And for a lot of people, it was like, it sucks. You know, it's like you think this group that you've enjoyed, it just sounds like every other group that's getting ready to break up. And yes, you love Tay, but it's like they didn't get that shine before they broke up. It was happening while they were still on the cusp. But it was really difficult, especially being friends with those guys. It was like, damn, man, can't y'all figure this out and navigate it? They couldn't. They couldn't. Did it have to happen? Yeah. If it doesn't happen, I guess you have to ask yourself, does Ninth produce Duckworth on Kendrick's album? Does Tay go on to make Charity Starts at Home? Does he become the solo act that he becomes? Do any of these things happen if they still were a group, or them separating allowed them to find themselves as musicians? I mean, Pooh went on and did, Sleepers was still there. RPM, he did an album with Knots. He needed that growth. And when they came back together, it felt right. Pooh and Tay. Everybody's heard the story about Ninth. So yeah, man, I think it had to happen, man. It, like, when I worked at BET, Pooh and Sean Don came to my office. And this was at the time, I think, I can't remember, I think Get Back was out. Foreign Exchange's second album was coming out, and we had premiered it on BET, but Pooh and Sean Don came. And Pooh says, take a ride with me, ride in his car in New York. And he puts in this cassette tape. And he's like, there's this guy on here that I rap with. He called me. His name is K-Dot. I think he's really dope. The song is called Thanksgiving. And I listened to it, and I was like, holy shit. Later on, I meet Top Dog, J-Rock, Kendrick Lamar. They were always fans of Little Brother. K-Dot connected with Pooh because Pooh wasn't really doing anything at the time. Tay was busy with Foreign Exchange. Ninth was doing his thing. And that's how they connected to do Thanksgiving. And from there, the story tells itself. Kendrick takes off, becomes the artist that he is today. Does that happen if Pooh was with Tay and Ninth and they're making music, right? Do they have time for this rapper from Compton that nobody's ever heard of to make a song? And at that time, Pooh was very much like, he's next. I had never heard him before. Never. I heard a J-Rock and I heard him, but I was like, I never really listened. But after that moment, because Pooh, I was just like, oh, this kid is dope. But that's if anybody remembers some early K-Dot mixtapes, he's rhyming over Foreign Exchange beats. And when I met him, he was like, the first thing Kendrick told me was like, I want to do a song with Ninth. This is before like Pussy and Patron came. This is before all that. This is when he did the freestyle over the Monster beat. Does this happen if that group is still together? Probably not. Shit has to happen. It sucks, but it has to happen.
For a lot, I think for a lot of Little Brother fans, it's like, it's gotta be Ninth. They had that mindset. Like when the reunion happened, it's like, there was a segment that just couldn't take it at, face value, that because it wasn't Ninth in there. You mentioned some of those mixtapes. It is kind of interesting when you think back. It's like those mixtapes, there was a lot of other producers involved in those. And so, yes, those weren't the albums proper, but they, they still had album quality and everything. And so I guess it's kind of one of those things where it is interesting to see the kind of split in the Little Brother fan base, where it's like there's some fans that just can only accept it if it's the trio, and some that just kind of think it's more, Tay and Pooh, and they can work with whoever. Where do you kind of, see that dynamic? Do you think they work well, spreading the sound, or does, for kind of the Little Brother story to truly be complete, like, does there need to be a Ninth Wonder album one day?
Man, I think they're so beyond. I won't say that. Right now, it feels like we won't get another one with the trio. And I think we should be okay with that. It's kind of like asking LeBron to go back to the Cavs again. And I don't know who LeBron is in this case. But at a certain point in your career, once you move on, it's hard to come back because there's so much growth that happens that now that when you get to the studio, you're like strangers again. It's not, I hear MCs and I hear people talk about it all the time. It's like riding a bike. It's really not, because now that bike is different. Now that bike is no longer just a Huffy. Now that bike might have an extra large wheel in the front. Now that bike might not have brakes. Now that bike it's just a completely different vehicle. And I've been of the mindset, I want it to happen, but it's kind of like dating your ex-girlfriend all over again, right? There's a reason why y'all broke up. And did you become a better person after the separation? In some cases, yes. If you go back to that situation, the problem is one of the parts, especially when you have three people involved, one of the people are going to be maybe stuck in the past while one of them want to move on to the future, and one of them's just trying to there to do it. It don't feel the same. So people that want a Little Brother album, I understand. I've always understood it, because it's like you want to relive those moments, right? But you can't. It's kind of over. And we got to kind of get over it, because the worst, come on, man, you're a Wu-Tang fan. The worst thing that can happen is you bring them back together and you're, as the fan, go, what the fuck is this? Because it isn't what you wanted it to be, because they're not doing that anymore. Fonte ain't the Fonte from the Listening and the Minstrel Show. Big Pooh isn't that MC either. Ninth isn't that producer. And knowing the growth that they had musically and as individuals, I mean, they're 40-year-old men now. We got to move on. We have to move on, and we need to just look at that music in a time capsule and be like, this is what I love. The worst thing you could do is just ruin that experience for me. Like, if Wu-Tang made an album right now, could it rival anything that they made before? Do you think?
I don't think so, but I'd love to hope so.
You'd like to hope so, right? But the growth that Ghostface has had, the growth that, Raekwon has had, what Method Man has done lately, and then you put it back with the RZA, and whatever the RZA is doing at this very moment may not fit the sound that Ghost, Raid, Meth, Deck, and the rest need. So that's why, especially when it comes to MCs and producers, like, musical tastes change. What you rhymed over 15 years ago, you may not want to rhyme over anymore. The things that you listen to, it happens all the time. You listen to something, you go back and listen to it, like, what the fuck was I liking about this, right? Like, it's not whack. It's just you're trying to figure out, why was this my favorite song? Some things always stay with you, but you got to grow. They had to grow. It just had to happen.
Now, when we're going, I guess there's kind of these two chapters of Little Brother that where there was this time where it looked like it was over. It's like the left back comes out, and honestly, I know some people, not that there's good music on the left back. I enjoy some, but it was like, it just kind of felt like they limped out almost. It was just like, it was like, hey, this is here, take it, And so for me, just as a Little Brother fan, I think it was extremely important that May the Lord Watch happen, because it was like, it needed that, even if that's the last one they ever do. Like, that was like the actual closure that Little Brother fans needed. Like, the left back was just kind of like, that was, kind of like the guy limping off the court, and and you were like, no, man, I want to see you shooting, that last shot and draining it to walk off the court. Did you feel like May the Lord Watch was important for the Little Brother legacy?
Yes. Man. Left back is getting ready to come out. I remember this very fondly. And I was like, this is cool. I remember, I think me and Tay were at Soundset, I think. And I remember he was like, I'm going to send you the album. And I heard it, and I was like, all right, this is cool. But I remember a couple of years later, I was like, y'all were checked out when y'all put this album out. I was like, y'all, like, I can tell you guys were tired of each other. And it was true. Just remember, Charity Starts at Home, Tay's back with Ninth, Pooh was out of the picture. A lot of shit was going on when the left back was being made. And yeah, it did kind of felt like they limped off. it was like they were giving fans, they thought they were giving fans what they wanted, but what they really needed was therapy, right? Whether that is with an intermediate or whether it was with each other, it just felt like there were two ships passing in the night, and they were just like, all right, y'all want this? Here you go. Congratulations, you got this left back shit. It's great, right? And we're like, yeah, it's we'll live with it. That's how we felt. And all those years have passed. Tay does Charity Starts at Home. He gets back with Ninth. Pooh is doing his own thing. Obviously, people have heard Pooh was driving an Uber for a hot second. Shit happens. Just fucking music industry. Nobody's rich like you think they are. The day that they did that reunion show, I remember I saw it and I texted the three of them and I was like, why didn't y'all tell me about this? And Ninth hits me first and he's just like, it just happened really quick. We'll talk about it later. We didn't talk about it for like another year after that. But if anybody heard the story, it did happen that quick. It was like a random show. And then Tay was like, all right, call Pooh, call Ninth, let's do this. And Ninth infamously says, do you really want to go down this road again? And Tay's like, fuck it, sure.
Wasn't it Royce couldn't make the show and they
Yes.
started scrambling for an act?
No, I've had that conversation with Royce. Like, this is your fault. It's your fault that this happened. They were scrambling for a night. They called Tay. Tay called Ninth. Ninth called Pooh. Was like, let's just do this reunion. It was not planned. Nothing was for certain. So when I texted him, I was jokingly angry with him. But then I realized, like, oh, you're serious. Like, this shit literally came. Like, Pooh was like, I am driving from Raleigh right now to get to this thing. Nobody thought about it. And I could play the fence on this because I understand when Ninth said, do you really want to go down this road again? I understood what he meant. Tay was like, yeah, sure. We're grown men. We can do this reunion show. Ninth was more like, you know what fans are going to want when we do this. And we haven't even fixed our issues as a group. Fans don't give a shit what's going on. They see the three of us on stage. They think, we're good. Let's make an album. That wasn't the case. They had lived their own lives, and now it was like, well, how do we make this album? And everybody's heard the stories now. Tay and Pooh have talked about how Ninth didn't get involved. They weren't there. So the thing about May the Lord Watch to me was, I didn't even know it was coming out, right? Like, remember, everybody found out like maybe it was like 24 hours before. And I called Tay and I was like, y'all motherfuckers did an album and didn't tell me? And like, again, joke with him. He's like, I'm mixing it. He's like, I am literally, it's like, because we didn't want to tell anybody because everybody's gonna have these preconceived notions. We just want to drop it on their heads. So did May the Lord Watch need to happen? Yeah. Because if you listen to it, I think it's an extraordinary album. Black Magic is probably one of my favorite Little Brother songs of all time. I think the musicality of that album is on another level. And then you feel like you came back with like niggas hollering. Like that skit was great. You had Jamel Hill there. You had Peter Rosenberg all over this, being this goofy white host. It felt like a Little Brother album. Ninth wasn't there, sucked, but that album couldn't have been what it was with Ninth. It just couldn't. It couldn't. They just weren't on the same page. And I think it's better that way because that album probably would have never came out if Ninth was in the picture because they had too many issues to work through, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think also when you think about Ninth not being involved and that we touched on how fans feel a certain way about that. I think that also you have Crisis there. Crisis still a big part of it, and whatever people may think about like this is the trio. To me, Crisis is also kind of like the fourth disciple, maybe if we're going down the Wu-Tang line of thinking. It's like he was that guy that he'd get him, he'd get the beat, he'd get him. And so it worked for me. It's like if Crisis is involved, hey, that's all I need.
Dude, people don't give Crisis enough credit. That dude's got heat. If anybody heard like the Sean Price albums, if anybody heard like all the Crisis's work, the joint he did with Elzai, Crisis is an incredible producer. And to this day, I'm still a little fascinated. It was like, let's say we're friends and we got a friend that we don't really fuck with anymore, but you are still friends with him, and I'm gonna go to your house and get this beef from you, even though it was weird, right? Like his Ninth and Crisis is still tight. They still produce, they still work together. Soul Council's in full effect. So Tay and Pooh are getting beats from Crisis. Ninth isn't involved. So how does Ninth feel about all this? I've had conversations. I'm not going to divulge them, but it's a very weird thing. But to me, if you listen to the Minstrel Show and you don't look at the album credits and you ask people, what did Crisis produce on here? I guarantee you they won't know. They'll say a ninth beat is a Crisis beat. And they'll say a Crisis beat is a ninth beat. Not that they're that similar, but the sound remained intact. I don't think May the Lord Watch missed a step with Crisis Behind the Boards, with Knots. I don't think they missed a step. Would it have been nice to hear ninth? Yeah, but I think it also gave us a little bit of growth because, no disrespect to Ninth, because I think Ninth is one of the greatest and most underrated producers of all time. We know the Ninth sound. We know it. And as much as we would like to hear, I think it's fun hearing those guys with other producers. It would have been cool, like, if May the Lord Watch had 4 Ninth Wonder beats and other people produced it, I'd have been cool with that. I wouldn't mind it. But if people wanted an entire album produced by Ninth, and Ninth had so much shit going on. Obviously, he's got the Rhapsody joints. He did the Smith and Wesson album. Like, there was so much shit going on. Y'all wanted it until y'all would have got it. And then you would have been like, this sounds like, you probably would have been totally happy with it. And I think that's what, when Tay and Pooh talk about it, they did want to reach out to other producers. They wanted to have Ninth, but they wanted to have other people involved too. And, whatever the miscommunication was, some people say Ninth didn't want to do that. Some people said Ninth did want to do that, but he wasn't available. Who knows? But I think the bottom line is May the Lord Watch is an excellent album. I would like to have a couple of Ninth Wonder beats on there just for nostalgia purposes. But again, move on. I don't need LeBron going back to Cleveland, man. I'm cool.
And it'll be all the more special if they ever, even if it's just one song, if they connect, everybody's going to be, just in full fanboy mode when they do it, so yeah. There's also that aspect, and you touched on it earlier. It's like Ninth's been producing albums for other people since way back. It's like, so it's not this, we're lacking Ninth material.
Not at all.
Plenty of Ninth beats to hear.
No, and I think that's the crazy. Like, people say, I want to hear Ninth and Little Brother together, but man, you just got these Rhapsody albums. Like, you just got, like, Ninth is everywhere. Ninth worked with Nipsey. I remember Ninth sent me the Face the World joint. I was like, yo, this is incredible. I needed to hear Ninth work with other artists. We needed that. It's not fair. As hip hop fans, we often want our producers to do what we want them to do. You produce for that artist, that's it. Don't you work with anybody else. And then, like, Ninth worked with 2 Chainz. And people was like, and it was dope. It's not like with Ninth without Little Brother is just nobody. It's not like Little Brother, Fontaine and Pooh without Ninth are just nobodies. They're fine. They're fine with each other. You need it, man. We're gonna fan out if we ever get that joint. But again, like, being a group, I keep using this LeBron thing. Can you really picture LeBron back with Kyrie in Cleveland after all the shit they've been through? You can't. The chemistry, it'll be great for a game, right? They both drop 30, they both might get a triple-double maybe, and you'd be like, that's great. But a whole season of that shit, they're probably gonna kill each other at some point. So for them, it's not gonna work. For us, it's fantastic.
Now, obviously this we're talking about Little Brother, but part of the Little Brother story too is foreign exchange. And when we get in, what do you think it was about that foreign exchange that worked so well? And we do have to get into it. It's like, how did it, do we have a Drake that emerges without Fonte showing that blueprint works?
Bruh, wow, that's a good one. So that's 2 questions. So the first one I'll answer, we'll talk about Drake real quick. 2005, Tay sends me a song, Don't You Got a Minute? And he's like, me and Tay used to have, I'm completely out of it. He's probably gonna text me like, stop. Back then, we used to share music folders. Tay would send me a bunch of shit, like either by him or by other artists that he liked. Piranha Head, fucking Quadrant, like we used to Boom Clap Bachelors. We used to and it would never be rap music, right? Just never. We just always exchanged folders back in the AIM days. We're going back there. But he would stick a song that he did he'd be like, he wouldn't tell me, it'd just be in the folder. Like 88 Keys Close Call was in a folder one time. And I was like, what the fuck is this? And he was like, oh, it's just some shit I did with 88 Keys. Don't You Got a Man was in the folder. And I was like, oh, this is dope. Who the fuck is this? He was like, and I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, this guy really likes this. His name's like Drake. He was on like Degrassi. And I didn't know what Degrassi was. He was like, yeah, he's some actor kid, but he wanted to do a joint with us, and we just did a joint. He paid ninth. We did the song together. And I was like, oh, all right. It was on comeback season, obviously. But ninth was just, not ninth. Drake was just a really big fan of Fonte, right? And like, Don't You Got a Man? And then, oh my God, was it Keep Good Thoughts? Is that was the name of the joint? With the Anita Baker sample? Oh, I can't think. Somebody's gonna correct me on it. But I remember they did that and it had Elza on it, and the Elza verse never came out till like 3 years later. And Drake was just like paying because he wanted to work with him, right? But Drake at the same time, he was friends with like Trey Songz, and he wanted to sing, right? Foreign Exchange comes out. You remember the first Foreign Exchange album, Connected, was like a hybrid album. It wasn't totally singing. You had like Raw Life, you had Tanya Morgan on the album, but then you had Darren Broxton, you had obviously Nicole's beats were amazing. And I think that for the Foreign Exchange album, the way it existed, because quiet as kept, Nicolay don't make music like anybody. The shit that Nick does is just, I had never heard anything like that. It was soulful. It had, influences of house in there, but then it was still hip hop, right? So when the Connected album came out, Frank did the album artwork, and I remember I got it, and it was in the script at the time. It didn't say who was on it. And I was like, oh, that's Fonte. Oh, that's Von P. And I was like, oh, that's Pooh. This is a fucking Little Brother album. And they were like, no, it's not. Tay told me he worked with Nicolay from the Netherlands, and they connected and did this album. But that's also when people recognize, oh, Tay can sing, right? Like he can balance this out, because listening wasn't a lot of singing, even though Tay did some of the hooks, but the Foreign Exchange album was. So yes, it laid this blueprint. And rest assured, Drake paid attention to all of this shit that was happening. Because the fun fact about Hip Hop Site is we used to see who used to order the albums. So I knew who was ordering. Like Elliot Wilson used to order a ton of shit from us. People would be thinking about Elliot, and they were like, oh, no, he was ahead. Like, we used to see. And I'm pretty sure that Drake ordered a lot of that shit. R.B. Graham ordered Little Brother albums. He either got it from us or Sandbox Automatic. But that influence allowed him to feel comfortable being himself, because also between Kanye West and Fonte at the time, there weren't too many artists that were extraordinarily vulnerable in their music, right? And Drake was that emo guy. You also have to remember this part. Whether they want to admit it or not, if you listen to some of Drake's best work and you listen to some of Fonte's best work, they like the same artist. Lemon Pepper Chicken Freestyle is a Quadrant sample. Quadrant is a product of Boom Clap Bachelors, which is something that me and Fonte introduced me to a long time ago. Kendrick Lamar also sampled Boom Clap Bachelors for Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe. There is a lot of overlap in what they like. So Drake always saw that this was somebody who was kind of like him, just didn't have as much money and notoriety, right? Like if you listen to what Drake was doing, you can hear the remnants of Fonte in there. But Drake just wanted to be super mainstream. That's where the Kanye thing comes in. Those comparisons come in. But they have so much alike. It is fascinating that they have never worked together. And it probably will never happen. It got close, and Fonte has talked about it before. It got really close, but if there is no Fonte and there is no Foreign Exchange, I don't think Drake goes in the way he did, because even Comeback Season didn't sound like So Far Gone. So Far Gone sounded like a Foreign Exchange album.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Well, man, Dre, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Man, like I said, I couldn't think of anybody better for the topic of Little Brother. Is there anything you want to make sure people know? I know you're still promoting Our Heroes Rock right now.
Yep.
And where can people catch you right now?
Man, I'm everywhere, man. Just follow me on Twitter at Andreas Hale. Obviously working for Sport News and the Corner podcast with Kel Dansby, Wrestling with Stereotypes, and ad-free shows. Obviously, Our Heroes Rock. By the time this comes out, the campaign will be wrapped up. Me, WWE superstar Big E, and Johnny Davenport, a cartoon that blends science fiction and hip hop. We're doing a pilot episode. We're fully funded. Rhapsody is going to do the story of Ruby Bridges, and Eric, the architect from Flatbush Zombies, is doing all the music. So yeah, man, you can find me there. Like I say, just follow me because I write everywhere. So I appreciate the support, Justin. You know, we're boys, so I'm glad I had a chance to do this with you. I've talked about Little Brother before, but I don't think I've divulged as much to anybody as I did to you just now. So glad to be here, glad to do it. And for all you listeners out there, if you listen to this podcast, make sure you stick with Justin because Justin does dope work. Like, Justin, you know this, but you know, I worked at Hip Hop DX and then I ran the Wellverse and Justin came along and I was like, who the fuck is this kid that writes? He's an incredible writer and is in tune with like hip hop from all aspects and just does everything right. And if you are a hip hop head and you are not listening to this podcast, you are fucking up.
I appreciate that, man. Dre, thanks again. I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, brother.
All right, man. What a conversation with Andreas. Great way to kick this thing off, and hope y'all enjoyed it and you got a lot to chew on there with Little Brother. And so great having him. Before we wrap up for this week, I'm gonna give y'all a little segment. We're gonna be doing these weekly. It's called Listener Lanyard. Obviously, this is a hip hop podcast, but we're going to give you a little taste of what we're enjoying outside of music, and maybe a little bit in music sometimes too. Beyond hip hop, but we want to get y'all a little taste of what we were enjoying. And so Lynn and I will be talking about some things that we've been watching, reading, checking out, whatever we've been doing, and hopefully give y'all a few little recommendations to enjoy in that aspect. Lynn, what you been watching lately?
I got you. I'm gonna give that list, but I wanted to say I wish I could give them some music stuff, but you know it's been dry. It's been real dry at the start of this year. Besides like Benny the Butcher plugs the Plugs 2 thing with Fraud, which I really dug. Plugs I'm at 2. That's what I've been jamming recently. But in terms of watching, man, I am a nerd, as you can see by the things next to me. I'm like big into the Invincible animated show on Amazon right now. Super adult, like forward. This is not something you show your kids. Great show. But what I've really been loving, and I'm not the Marvel guy. Don't get it twisted. I'm a DC guy through and through. I am not the Marvel guy. Last Marvel thing, I said this. This is the first one I've loved since like Iron Man. Like I liked Ragnarok. I liked Winter Soldier. I liked Black Panther. But like I haven't loved anything. I'm loving Falcon Winter Soldier, man. I don't know what it is. I love that show. It is great. And we're getting like some basically the story is the Winter Soldier is to humanize him, but for Sam to become a hero. We got some ties to Louisiana, so that's always nice to see with Anthony Mackie. He actually makes his character from Louisiana, so that's pretty interesting. But fights are great. And other than that, TV wise, we talked about it off air. The Cinemax stuff has been really cool on HBO Max, like with this streaming stuff. If I wanted to recommend something, I'd recommend that. I'm not gonna recommend my superhero stuff because if you're a superhero fan, that's when you do it. But if I'm gonna recommend like some non-superhero stuff, I think out of the Cinemax shows that I saw, that was the best one between like Banshee Warrior and The Nick. I'm gonna go with The Nick. It's a show that takes place like in the 30s, 40s, 50s, around that time when hospitals were just becoming like a real thing. Like they have ambulances coming in and it's like them learning how to do surgeries and whatnot. And then there's this great surgery guy or this great doctor, this great surgeon who's like getting up in age. He's about to take over as head of surgery. And then like now there's this like young black guy who's coming in to be a surgeon and like the racial undertones of all of that. And like, it's a great show, man. The Nick. So if I had to recommend anything, I'd recommend that on HBO Max.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it. It felt like they were hiding these shows on.
They were. and I know
now,
Clive Owen would have been pissed because like now it's like, oh man, Clive Owen, where's he been? And you see this great show that was hidden. It's like this guy's been doing some good stuff.
I was excited when they put Warrior on there because like I remember that show was first announced it's just the whole Bruce Lee connection was already. I was just like, I'm in, you know.
That show's great.
But then
That
with Cinemax, I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna see this. So yeah, so I'll throw in for Warrior too. Yeah, for me, I'm gonna go with another streaming service, another newer streaming service, Paramount Plus. I've been enjoying the hell out of Paramount Plus because they got Rocco's Modern Life and Beavis and Butthead, Reno 911, stuff like that. But man, I would have never watched this show if I didn't, checked out the Paramount Plus. Was this one called Tuning Out the News, and it's Stephen Colbert producing it, and it's kind of if you're needing that old fix for the Colbert Report and stuff like that, just kind of taking the news but being very silly about it and
spoofing it to the only Colbert could.
Exactly. Like I kind of miss that. It's just absolutely goofing on the politicians and the journalists and everybody that's involved in the political sphere. This is that show that you need if you want that. This will give you those laughs. And man, I think the last week was the whole Matt Gaetz stuff happens. So there was a lot of material.
I'm watching this.
Yeah, so that'll be mine. It's real quick. They have little daily episodes. They're like 8 minutes, so you can watch it real fast. And they even have like a recap episode at the end of the week, so you can check out the whole thing if you're like, no, I can't keep up with daily stuff. Just give me the
one bite.
Give me the one bite. So that'll be that. My TV recommendation. Movie wise, the latest one I really enjoyed was a weird movie, Swallow. Haley Bennett's in it. And man, I don't want to spoil it too much for you, but it's like, if you like weird movies, if you like kind of thriller horror, check this out. It's kind of a Stepford Wives-ish kind of vibe to it. And like I said, don't want to spoil too much for you, but if you like those kind of off-kilter movies, check that one out.
Okay, I wish I had a new movie to recommend. I don't want to recommend Kong Godzilla because like the plot line is like not good, but you do get what you asked for, which is a big monkey fighting a big lizard. And I mean,
at the end of the day, if you advertise Godzilla vs. Kong and you give them the fight, you can't be too mad.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I wasn't upset, because they actually, unlike Godzilla King of Monsters in the first Godzilla, where it was more about the humans, less about the fighting. They were like, nah, we understand the fans' gripes. We're gonna give y'all big monkey fighting big lizard the whole time.
I say, hey, sometimes you got to give the people what they want.
Can't be mad at that. But since I don't have a movie to recommend, I'm gonna recommend one more show. This is on AMC Plus, and if you have like the Amazon like extension, that's how I watch it. It's called Gangs of London. To me, this is the best action show I've seen in like 2 years. It is amazing. Joe Cole from Peaky Blinders is like the main character, but the good thing is they have like a bunch of like new British actors, British and African actors who I think will start trickling into America, with like Sope Disu, who plays like he plays like a partner to Joe Cole. That's the best way I'm saying, because I don't want to spoil what he is, but that and the Nick are my two recommendations, because I don't have a movie one.
I like those recommendations. That the Gangs of London, that was another one that hooked me too. And it was the same thing. It was like last year it came out. I was like, oh man, I don't want to do another streaming service. But then I see they start airing it on regular AMC, and I'm like, okay, I'm all in.
It's amazing, man. I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at that show and how fast I got into that show. But that makes me excited for like deals that are coming through to Netflix. Like the guy who made Gangs of London, Gareth Evans, is getting like a Netflix deal with them to make exclusive content for them. So like if the guy who made The Raid and that is getting like a bunch of money to make shows for Netflix, sign me up. I'm there.
Yeah. Just FYI for anybody that doesn't know, Gareth Evans did both of the Raid movies. If you've never seen that and you're an action fan, like you got to get on that this weekend. I mean,
yeah, it's that good.
Go play it the next day.
And don't be afraid of the subtitles.
No, don't be afraid. Subtitles are not scary.
Exactly. I'm with you 100%.
Too many good foreign movies to be skipping out on the subtitles.
That's a fact. Like Bong Joon-ho said in like his Oscar speech, it's like you gotta read the subtitles because you miss out on a lot.
Absolutely. Well, Lynn, man, glad to have this first one in the books. I can't wait for round 2. We're gonna have so many great conversations on here, and then obviously we want to just shout out and thank everyone who's listening. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for checking us out, and definitely want to give a special thanks to Track Sounds and my man D Lanham for providing us with the beats that you heard during this show. And man, we'll see you next time.
Peace.